Covenant Living of Mount Miguel residents. This is Margot Buell, Resident Services Director. It's a beautiful day here at Mount Miguel. Finally, we've got a little bit cooler weather here, and I'm so grateful because I felt like the summer was just going on and on and on. I love sunshine, mind you, of course, but I like a little crisp in the air and falling leaves. So I'm really liking our weather right now. Today we're going to meet a very special couple, Ed and Lynda Delgado, in apartment 154. Chances are you've already met this amazing couple, but if you haven't, you're in for a real treat. They've been here for a while now, and they've met a lot of you, and they have a wonderful story to share. You may not know everything about them, even though you may have met them and had long conversations with them. They've had a long and wonderful life. They have wonderful children and grandchildren, and they have a lot of stories to share. So let's go ahead and learn more about Ed and Lynda Delgado. Enjoy. Hello, Ed and Lynda Delgado in apartment 154. How long have you lived at Mount Miguel?
We arrived here on June the 22nd, so we've been here for just a little over 4 months.
What brought you to Mount Miguel?
Well, probably, do I answer all of these? Okay, probably kids, grandkids.
Okay.
We were living in Los Angeles County, and we have absolutely no other family. We have families like cousins up north, but no other family in Los Angeles County. But we have grandkids here, and a son and a daughter. And we knew about Miguel. We had friends in Mount Miguel. We've spoken in Mount Miguel. So we already knew that it was a really cool place. So the combination of knowing Mount Miguel and also being part of the covenant and then having grandkids. So I won't try to answer the whole question.
Your first answer was getting old.
Oh!
Who's getting old?
No.
You guys obviously aren't
We're
getting
older.
old. Okay. We're going to go all the way back to the beginning. Where were each of you born and raised?
Okay. I was born in Globe, Arizona, a small mining town in Arizona, but I was raised in Phoenix, Arizona.
Okay.
And I was also born in a small mining town in Arizona, Superior, Arizona, which is only 18 miles away from where she was born. It's a mining town, very stable because it's like the old mining towns where people had grandparents and parents, things like that. So we did, even a great-grandparent. Very stable place.
Wonderful. And what was your childhood like, each of you?
Well, mine was, again, really quite stable. We had aunts and uncles in the small town, grandparents in the small town, great-grandmother in the small town. Our church was a Protestant Hispanic church. There was only one in our small town. There were actually only 2 Protestant churches when I was a child. So one in Spanish, one in English, and they were from the same denomination. And very stable. Everything happened in our home around family or the church.
And how many siblings do you have, Ed?
I have a twin brother.
Wow.
And one older sister and one younger sister. And they're all living. Yeah.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Does your twin brother live close by?
My twin lives in Tempe, Arizona.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Are you fraternal or identical?
We're fraternal.
Okay.
He actually is 20 minutes older than I am. Yeah, so basically what I say was, you're first because I needed more time in the womb.
Oh, nice.
You kicked him out.
Yeah.
And how about you, Lynda?
I had a very, I would think of my childhood as a very happy childhood. And yeah, my parents grew up in the church. Church was the centerpiece of our family life. And my father came to know the Lord through my mom before they were married. And but he only lived until I was 13. I was the eldest. I have a sister and 2 brothers, so there's 2 boys and 2 girls, our family. And my father died when he was 42, so very young. But when I think of childhood, I think of that block of time that was just a great foundation. In spite of the fact that we lost him early, I felt like he left a great legacy and we had a great family time.
Sure. And tell us about your school years, elementary, junior high, high school, college.
My school years, I love school, and I feel like I was a typical older child where you have to do everything right and want to do everything right, and then I think too, because you're the first one and the parents are ready there to give you all the attention and time you need, and I really love school. High school was especially fun for me. I felt like all the extracurricular activities and going out for doing elections or extra activities was just really a fun time for me. So I think of those a really good positive educational time of my life, and then went on to university, and I was the first in my family to go to university, so that was also main focus and highlight of our family, that we could start going to university.
Wonderful.
What was it?
Elementary, junior high, high
okay.
school, college.
Yeah, my mind just started rolling and
Sure. Rolling and rolling.
Yeah. I have to start with even preschool. That was really unusual for kids in my hometown to ever go to a preschool. I just learned that the preschool that I went to had been started probably only 1 year before we went. I was 4 years old, and it was a woman that had been in the military, and she was a wave. And she was from Boston. I just read about her. Anyway, she started this little red schoolhouse, and she focused on kids like me that were Hispanic and had grown up in a Spanish-speaking home, and she was actually focused on helping those Hispanic kids to learn English. And she was excellent. Margaret Luster. Even to this day, almost everyone that I know that ever went to her school was advantaged. My parents went to school, did all their education in English, but they wanted us to speak proper Spanish. So they insisted on speaking only Spanish until we were at that age, and from that age on, we went to school. So we went to normal school, preschool, and normal 1 through 8th. There were some abnormalities at the beginning because of things that were done. If you were Latino, you went to the 1C and then the 1B and then the 1A and all that. But it's not a negative thing, you know, but something like that happened. So those were normal years. We lived only 2 blocks away from school. So we would go to school, then we'd run home for lunch, and then we'd go back to school. And we all went to either the same primary school and the high school. But those were all good years. Yeah. Good teachers.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
And how did you two meet?
Well, that's a story in itself.
We're ready.
Okay. Well, we were actually, because we were both from mining town, the small mining towns. And as Ed said, the mining towns had one Protestant church. And we were in the Presbyterian church denomination. And they had one pastor for several different small churches. And so one pastor would visit one church on one Sunday and then go to the other town on another Sunday. So his family was in Superior and my family was in Miami, Arizona. And so once a year he would gather these churches together and we would have a great big convention. And so our families got to know each other, even though they were in different towns. They all knew each other because they had the same pastor and they were part of a larger congregation. So we met each other when we were very young. Our parents knew each other before they were married. And then when they began having children, then we would get together. So we have a picture of the two of us in a church convention where I'm 4 and he is 6.
Oh my goodness.
So we like to say we met then. He teases me because he says he pulled my pigtails. So we knew each other. I'd say we knew each other. We were acquaintances then. And then in high school we met again. And then when I graduated he had graduated a year before I did from high school. And then when I graduated, found out that I was going to the same university that he was. So he told me he would show me around the university. So that was our courtship time, was the university. Although we had met each other and known each other before.
Part of our apartments. I know.
I think it was meant to be.
Okay. It was really interesting. Her family and my family were friends, and her grandparents and my grandparents were friends. And but I had no doubt from the time I saw her for the first time.
When she was 4 years old.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
I think it's a line.
No, I remember that, and it really stuck. The interesting thing is that my twin brother and I think, were attracted to her, but Lynda was always with 2 other cousins, and they all were always dressed the same. None of them were sisters. They were all dressed the same. So we remember that too. They were the cutest little girls. And so that was always in our mind. And our family, and my family, was always saying, hey, you got to, this, they were talking about the
I was
girls.
playing Cupid with this.
Well, it turns out that all of that story that Lynda told was absolutely true. And I remember her at various like youth group and things like that. But when we got married, my brother met her cousin, and they got married. So my twin brother is married to her cousin.
Lovely.
He has 1 son, and we have 1 son. He has 2 daughters, and we have 2 daughters. So we're kind of still tracking each other.
Yes, very much so. So tell us about your son. Okay, first of all, backing up a little bit, tell us about your engagement and wedding day.
Okay. It's really interesting because I just wrote on the engagement. We had dated for 2.5 years. I was in fraternity, and she was in in a dorm, a really good dorm. And so the fraternity actually, because you wear a pin, so when you start dating and somebody becomes a special date for you, and you give them your pin, and she accepted my pin. So you wore my pin for about 1.5 years, almost 2 years. And then by the time I was a junior and you were a sophomore, at the end of our sophomore year, that was about the time we started thinking about, So it was a long bus trip. We had gone to visit our parents, and then we're on our way back to Tucson. We were at the University of Arizona. We were on the way back to Tucson. And on the trip, I think we kind of ran out of things to talk about. And it was a long trip because there was some flooding, and it was monsoon season and all kinds of stuff. So finally I said, well, let's talk about marriage, So that's when we started talking about marriage. And then, of course, we were still students, so we really didn't have a lot of money. So I made her a little ring out of twigs, and she still has it.
Aww.
And eventually, she got a real engagement ring. But I made her a twig engagement ring. And then we set a date. And, but between that, because I was in fraternity, and because of your dorm, some really interesting things. So when I told my fraternity brothers, there were about 85 of us, that we were engaged, then they have a tradition, and they pick you up, and they have this parade from the fraternity down to the old main fountain at the center of the U of A, and they take the guy that just got engaged, they throw him in the fountain, and then they bring his fiance, and then they sing him the fraternity romantic song. They sang it to her, and that was fun. And then they did something for you in your dorm. Also, you had the passing of a candle or
Yeah,
something like
pass
that.
the candle and
Yeah.
surprise it, announce it to everyone, and whoever blows out the candle is the one that's just recently got engaged. So we had some fun memories. We were
Right.
sharing this with our grandchildren the other day.
Yeah.
And tell us about your wedding day.
Our wedding day, well, we set the date on a 3-day weekend from school. So the kids asked us the other night if we had had a honeymoon. Well, we didn't have, in those days, in that time we weren't about to have a honeymoon. We had a 3-day weekend to get married and get back to class, get back to school. So we had stayed in a hotel that first night in Phoenix and then went to Tucson and set up our apartment and got
We were broke, we were
broke.
students.
But we were so much in love that it
Yeah, it
didn't
didn't
matter.
matter.
That was the best time. So
Yeah.
that was our wedding day. What else about our wedding day?
Well, what I remember is that getting to the church,
No.
and we got our marriage license in one county, and then the church was in another county. And all of a sudden, I guess people were worried that our marriage license wasn't going to be valid, signed because of a different county. So the wedding started late. I didn't even know that was going on. But anyway, that all went well. I thought it was a really nice wedding, and we had a nice reception. Nothing like they do now. I think it would have cost us a fortune now to get married. But we did it all, and it happened, and it was fine. I mean, when we got back to Tucson, we were counting our pennies, but we were in love. That's, you can do that. Yeah. So that's the only thing the other thing that I remember is when we left the reception, and we went to the hotel, but we were hungry. I was hungry.
Oh no.
So at that time, the bride would wear a special outfit, right? They call it trousseau of some sort or something like that. So Lynda was dressed in her trousseau with a pillbox hat.
Nice.
Yeah.
It was nice. It was.
So we walk into this restaurant.
But the restaurant we went into.
And that had music, and the musicians were playing, and they said, "Oh, we have a young couple who just got married." And I was, "Oh my gosh, I didn't want to, and they put the spotlight on us.
Oh my.
And, oh, that was so embarrassing. I could hardly wait to finish eating so get out of there. And that pillbox hat kind of always bothered me because it was so embarrassing. And eventually, about a year later, 2 years later, we were given a puppy. And one day we left, a little poodle. And one day that we left, we came back, and the poodle, I think, was upset with us, and we left, and ate the pillbox hat.
Tore it to pieces.
Oh no!
I could tell he was just really so
Devastated.
sad about that, wasn't he?
Right. Anyway, that's one of the things I remember.
Very good. And you have one son
We have,
One son and 2 daughters.
right.
and 2 daughters. Tell us about your children.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Well, it took us a long time to have our son. We lost 2 children before him, and then had to stay in bed for him. He came almost prematurely, but we were very excited and happy when we had him. So he's the oldest, and then we have a daughter 8 years later. She was born, and then 6 years after her, the third one. So none of them were super close in age. They're close now, but yeah. So we were an interesting thing about our daughters is that we had such a hard time having children. That was a difficult time of our lives. But a friend of ours in our church one day said that she had had a dream, and all our previous babies had been boys. So I thought, I guess we're just meant to have boys, So a friend of ours in our church had a dream, and she came to tell me that she dreamt that we would have 2 daughters. And so I didn't know if that was a God thing or if it was just her dream, and I knew she was being very consoling. So I thanked her for that and was encouraged. But I didn't want to take it for more than what it might have been. But I would love to see her now because it really happened. We had two daughters and beautiful children, and we were just really blessed with them. And then after all that trouble, we realized we have 10 grandchildren and 1 great-granddaughter. And so now when I look back and I see that, those difficult times I've been blessed with many more children. So we're excited with that.
And you appreciate them very much because
Very
of all you
much.
went through, I'm sure.
Yes, very, very much, yes.
Do they live close?
So our son Sergio
Yeah.
lives in about 27 miles from here, north of here, with his wife Begum. And they have 2 little girls, Mia and Alexa. And then he was married before, so he has an older daughter and a son. So her name is Samantha, and our grandson, Samantha and her grandson, and his name is Edward, just like mine. Yeah, and they look like us, huh?
Oh,
Yeah. So they live close by. Edward lives in Washington, and Samantha lives close by. And then our daughter, we have a daughter, Libby. It's actually Elizabeth. She lives in Chula Vista, and that's close by. And she's married, and she has 3 little girls. The oldest one is
It's going to be 12.
going to be 12. Okay, I always forget. So 3 beautiful little girls. And then we have another daughter, Rita, who lives in Maryland.
She's the middle one.
Yeah, and she has 2 girls and a boy. And there was some. Oh, the youngest one was born in Ecuador. Yeah, in Quito, Ecuador.
Libby.
So, yeah, Libby. So we've lived in so many different places.
Tell us why you have traveled so much and lived in these different places. What have you been up to?
Okay. Well, I think that I know for a fact that both of us had a call to ministry, even from childhood. And both of us grew up around the church. And my grandmother actually lived in Parsonage. Every time any traveling preacher or minister or missionary, they were always sitting around our table, either at our home or the parsonage. So heard all those stories. There were other stories that we heard growing up. In fact, Mary Lou's over there, and there was one of the ones that I read that impacted me was the one in 1956, and the missionaries that were killed in the Waroni village in Ecuador. So all of those things impacted me. I actually always had that in my call. And some things happened as I was growing up with friends and family that had gone to seminaries, and I kind of thought, that's not going to be for me because it wasn't positive things that happened. So I kind of stayed away from that for a while. But it wasn't until after I had graduated I had done a master's in international business at a school called Thunderbird, that we were connected to an organization called Compassion International. And Lynda actually started working for Compassion before I was connected to them. So that's a whole different story. But once we were connected, then, and because of my international business degree, and it was ministry, and because we were both deeply committed to ministry and had done all kinds of additional studies, formal, mostly non-formal, that they asked me to join them. So they sent us, after going through some mission training, to South America to be in charge of their ministries in South America. And they were developing all kinds of ministries at that time. So we went there, lived in Quito, Ecuador, and I had responsibility over 5 countries in South America. So I worked in those and traveled throughout that. We were there for almost 8 years, and that was when our second daughter was born. Then we came back, and they sent us then to Africa, and to do the same thing that we had actually done in South America. We went to live in Kenya, Nairobi, Kenya, and I had a few countries there, and I actually got to open a brand new country, which is one of the largest countries now, which is Ethiopia. And then we went on from there, after a short stint of living in South Africa, to Colorado Springs to be in charge of Central America, Mexico, and the Caribbean. So that was why we did a lot of travel.
Any favorite places that you traveled?
Well, you know, I thought Ecuador was going to be our favorite. I figured we'd been there 5 years, it had already become home. That was long enough to call it home. And I thought nothing could take the place of Ecuador or be as, you know, such a special place to us. But when we went to Africa, I was really surprised because I think Africa was just a really special place as far as we had already learned how to adjust to a new country, a new culture, and we were able to adapt quickly in Africa. And then interesting thing, because we were in Africa, we also connected right away with Hispanics because there weren't very many of us. And so it seemed like when somebody new was working in the country, word got out, and so we did a lot of worshiping.
If I work here?
You're fine. Word got around that there was a new person there around, and so we would join. The believers then would get together, so we would get together in Africa for community. And so we had friends from Brazil and from Colombia, and the ambassador's wife had just become a new Christian, and so we would have some wonderful worship times in Africa with Hispanic brothers and sisters.
The Brazilians, half of them were Christians, and they would spend half their time in our home. Yeah.
But that was a really special place, and as special as Ecuador had been, to find a new place even in Africa and call it home was just really special.
What was it like with your children traveling around and doing this?
It was not easy, and it was a very difficult time. It was positive and difficult at the same time. It was positive because our children got to have a worldview. I realized in growing up in the United States, you have a very limited view of what the world is really like. And so having them grow up in other countries gave them a worldview that very few American children can get. So I feel like that was a real advantage. A real disadvantage was the fact that we moved around so much. And of course it didn't always come at convenient times. 2 of them had to be moved when they were 13, and I think that's an age where, now looking back, is a difficult age for a child to move and put out roots someplace else. So it was not easy, and at the same time, God has used that in their lives, and so it's been a really good time.
Yeah. Talking about moving, I was talking to my son's mother-in-law yesterday, and I said, and she was asking us about living here, and I was telling her, we like it, and we hope we're here for a long time. And I said, we've lived in 33 homes since we got married, and she was shocked.
Wow.
And she said, why? It was because of our work. It just took us from one place to another, and it just, at the same time, Lynn said it might have been difficult sometimes for our kids, but at the same time it wasn't. You know, some things that are difficult when they're young actually make for strength as an adult. Our son, for example, like Lynda said, worldview, his thinking is very broad. He's fluent in English and fluent in Spanish and can speak Portuguese, and is a very broad thinker and very deep thinker. He's starting to do a doctorate right now in psychology, and he's good. He really knows what he's doing, and I think that breadth of cultural understanding and people and his ability to get along with so many different cultures and languages and all of that came because of a lot of those experiences. Our daughter, the one that lives in Maryland, did public health, and that was also part of her experience of what she saw when she was doing her public health. She had to do a special study. She went to UCLA, and she also went to Boston University. Part of her studies was she had to do something out of the country. So she was already used to living out of the country. So I suggested, why don't you go do something in Peru? And I knew some people that had a special project, so she went off to Peru and did it. So the kids have been able to do things that would kind of be a bit, had we not had the experience, we probably would not have encouraged them to have those experiences also. Yeah.
And now that you're at Mount Miguel, do you think you're going to be able to settle down after traveling so much and going to so many wonderful places? Do you think you can really feel settled down here and content?
Absolutely.
You're ready.
Yes.
Well,
Absolutely.
unlike a lot of people that retire, I think they look forward to being able to go travel afterwards, and I feel like we've done that. I think for us, it's a time that we can focus on our families, especially our grandchildren, to be able to have that time with them.
Yeah.
And we enjoy traveling, and we will like to do that if it happens. But we are content to be here.
Yeah, we have very fond memories, and people talk about where they're going to go on safari. We've done 20, 30, 40 safaris, and it was just part of our life, and I've done real jungle travel, many in both South America, Central America. It's just part of our life, it was visiting with different villages and with different people. And it was like, you weren't there just to be there, and it wasn't a tourist trip. You were actually there for relationships. And so I think that makes a big difference, just everywhere. So those are good memories, and it's not over. We don't have to travel, but some of those people that we know now connect with you on WhatsApp and on Facebook, and you name it. When you least expect it, somebody's giving you a call from Nairobi or from someplace or from Ecuador. So none of that's over. We're still doing it. Even to this day, even our connections. Lynda's teaching this course, or she started these courses, and she's got people from Chile and Argentina and Colombia and Ecuador and Mexico and all this on the course at the same time. And I love these boards, and same thing. On my board is Costa Rica and Colombia and and Mexico, and Chicago and all over. So we're still having that experience without necessarily needing to do it. I got a call last week and from a fellow, and I was fortunate to help to ordain the very first covenant pastor in Kenya. Just 3 years ago now. And they called me was it last week and a half ago? And they said, hey Ed, we're doing some things. You know, are you ready to come back? And would you be willing to spend 3 months here? And I said, what? You know, and I said, well, you know, it depends on what you want. Mm-hmm. You know, I wouldn't jump at it, but if it's something where I feel like the Lord really wants us to do this, mm-hmm. we might do it, but it's nothing that I'm looking to do. Mm-hmm. You know, we're very happy here, and we like it.
And what do you hope to get involved in here at Mount Miguel?
There's so many opportunities, so many options. So I think right now we're just trying to keep ourselves still and to really observe and to really find out exactly what is explore. Mm-hmm. So I feel like more it's exploring, but it's not, I don't think there's going to be a lack of things to do here. And meaningful things. Mm-hmm. People here have amazing stories and histories and talents and experience that we can continue to learn from and get involved with. So I think it's just a matter of taking time to really give ourselves time to find out exactly what there is here and what we can do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think also because we've been so new here and because of the COVID thing that everything's still closed, we haven't really been able to touch things or get into things the way we normally would. I think that's going to come. I think we want to be careful that we don't say yes right away to everything, and especially right now that we have some pretty heavy responsibilities that are not quite over. You know, mine will be over. One board that I'm on, got 2 more years to go in that, and the other one that keeps me very, very busy, I've got 3 more years to go in that, and then I'll be done. Mm-hmm. And but there's so much here, you know. And we're still healthy, that we want to be able to take advantage of what's here as long as we can, you know. And then when we slow down a bit more, we'll still take advantage of things that we can do, you know. There's still a lot of friends here, and eventually we'll get to board games, but right now we can do other things, you know. So, yeah. The garden, get me I'm on that list, but.
All right. We'll get you planting trees soon.
Yeah, there you go.
So when you guys were...
Not too much manual labor.
Okay. I have a big yard that needs a lot of maintenance. So.
My daughter does too.
Okay. In all of your travels, did you guys ever meet anyone that's famous?
I did. I was at an airport, and because of our travels, we'd get to go into the clubs, you know, the airline clubs. And there was this woman, and she was having a long conversation, and I heard her name, and it was Anwar Sadat's wife.
Oh, wow.
So I got to meet her, and I actually had a conversation with her, and I actually met her twice at the same place, coming and going, you know. And that's one of those memories that you just kind of keep, you know. It's very unusual, and we knew her story. So there's others, but that's one of those that stands out. Yeah.
Wonderful. Describe your ideal day. If you could wake up and do anything you'd like, and what would that look like?
For me, an ideal day would be able to get up early before the sun comes up and get dressed and be outside when the sun's coming up and just starting the day when the day's starting. And waking up, walking, and taking a long walk. And this campus has been wonderful for that already. To get up like 6:30 in the morning when the sun's coming up and enjoy the walk. I feel like my body wakes up and I wake up, and that's just this perfect beginning for me. And then coming back after the walk, making a pot of coffee and having coffee with Ed, and we have that time together, and we can talk and have a devotional and get ready for the day. And then if we have a day where we're doing what we're planned to do that day, and you feel like we've accomplished something, I feel good about that, and maybe something creative during the day. That's good, and always interspersed with a cup of coffee, and talk with the children, the daughters and son, with coffee, and then the grandchildren. The grandchildren they know how we all feel about having coffee together, but with them we have tea parties. So having a tea party with the grandchildren, it would be a wonderful time. So phone calls to siblings, and that for me is a perfect day.
Wow. Yeah. For me, it's not necessarily the walk in the morning, but it's just getting up leisurely and having a cup of coffee. We grind our own. We buy roasted coffee, and part of the enjoyment is actually grinding it and then putting it in an old-fashioned Italian coffee pot. Because then the whole house fills with that aroma of the coffee.
Now you know I always make coffee.
And then you take that coffee and sit outside, summer, winter, and just enjoy the trees and nature. And, I think we'll be able to continue doing that here. Just enjoy that and enjoy the conversation. We always start with a devotional. Every day we do different types. We have a friend that's a theologian, lives in Arizona, and he writes almost every day.
Especially during COVID.
Yeah, and really nice ones. If it's not that, we have another one. Actually, this one is, I think he's Presbyterian. Really good stuff. There's another one that it's called Pray As You Go, and we like that. And that one starts with church bells. It's Catholic, but you can't tell, which is fine with us. And it's always like 12 minutes, and it's really nice bells of some sort. Then some song that they'll sing. Sometimes it's in French, sometimes it's in Zulu language, a song, or English, or they mix it, and then a thought, and then they repeat it, and then it ends. It's a good way. In the past, we used to do Blackaby, and just, but we've done devotionals for years. That's our way to start. And a time of prayer, it kind of sets your day. Hopefully it sets it in a way that then the rest of the day, it's, if we have responsibilities, we'll do that. I think the rest of it is very similar to yours.
Both of you radiate happiness. It's apparent that God is a big part of your life, and that it looks to me like you guys might be best friends.
Yep.
Is that accurate?
Yes.
Yeah. And that you get along very well and are very compatible. And ever since I've known you, you both always carry a smile.
Okay.
We're very, very happy to have you at Mount Miguel. We felt very blessed that you guys joined the Mount Miguel family. Do you guys have any last words for the residents of Mount Miguel?
Well, I was reading the questions.
Yeah.
And I thought, what does your life kind of radiate or revolve around, or, even scripture? And there's been one scripture that's always been with us for years, which is Philippians 4:6. When in a fix, Philippians 4:6. Don't worry about anything. Instead, pray about everything. Tell God your answers. And so we love that one. And then the other one, which is something that really was important to us, and we did was it a crosswalk? In South Africa, Crossroads.
Crossroads.
And it was a 3-month discipleship study. And they started with love God, love your neighbor as yourself. And because it was a discipleship study, the focus was, yes, love God, love your neighbor, but really discipleship focus on yourself. And I thought, you rarely hear about that, and it was going back to almost what you teach now is restoring the soul. It really was soul focused. And so that also is something, if you have a healthy relationship with God, you're probably going to have a really healthy and developing formational relationship with yourself, which is going to help you have a healthy relationship with others. So,
Well, I think it's interesting that you brought that up with your question, because I think that's the one thing too that I would, in going over your questions for preparing for this, is one of the questions was what was your best day or whatever experience, and I think getting to know the Lord. Actually, I was raised in a Christian family, but the day that I can say that I had that experience of making a choice that he was going to be my Lord, I think has got to be the biggest. And he was my Savior, my anchor, my all. And that's been all the way through. And I think once you make that decision, I think we talked about it being hard raising children, and our life has been adventurous, but it's also been hard, but it's been joyful, and he's been the center. And I think, if anything, I would want to just say to those at Mount Miguel, and to be able to be accompany them and them us with that as our focus, it's just been just valuable.
Is this an open walkthrough, or should I go around?
keep going.
Thank you so much, both of you, for sharing what you have shared. You did say, and I'm definitely going to be putting you on the spot right now, you did say that you both like to sing. And is there a song that you both like, that you know the words to?
Yeah, well, when we came back from South Africa, we sang, it was just a little tune, but it meant a lot to us. His strength is renewed.
The strength, no.
The strength of the Lord.
Mercies of the Lord endure forever.
Mercies never come to an end. They are new every morning. New every morning.
You better cry.
Great is thy faithfulness, O Lord. Great is thy faithfulness. That one.
Thank you, Ed. Thank you, Lynda.
You're welcome.
It's been a pleasure.
Good.
Wow, it sure was great getting to know Ed and Lynda better. They're a beautiful couple, inside and out, with such a wonderful story to tell. It was a pleasure getting to know them. Next week, we will have another film featuring another new resident or two. Thank you so much for watching. Have a safe, happy, healthy, wonderful rest of your day. God bless you.